Normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
I heard a lot of people talking about how the RFK run would actually hurt Trump because
makes no sense.
He's an outsider. Trump's an outsider.
RFK Jr. announcing his campaign on, quote, Indigenous Peoples Day just excluded every right-leaning moderate, every centrist independent. They're just all gone.
And he teased the border stuff. He was like, the border is a serious issue, but then he wouldn't say, and I will build a wall. If he had done something like that, then yeah, there might have been people who were like, this is my issue. We're going here. I can see the implications. But he is like toying with some of his right supporters. The right supporters are enthusiastic about him, but they ultimately, there was this New Hampshire poll that was like, if your first choice doesn't run, who would you vote for? No one picked RFK. They were still picking Trump and whoever else first. He has popular support because he's so radical, but ultimately he is siphoning off votes from the Democrats.
Interesting.
Well, he's likable, and a lot of Republicans right now know that he was, against the vaccine, and that's big with them, and the border, like you said, but they haven't really heard him. Your average, everyday Republican that doesn't listen to the news all the time hasn't heard his stance on the climate change, hasn't heard his stance on gun rights.
He's really into abortion too.
Hasn't heard any of these things. So, I mean, if they could just stop right now and take the perception that a lot of Republicans have in terms of RFK Jr. and have the vote right now, yeah, he might take a little bit. I still think he takes more from Biden. He might take a little bit, but not much.
I think it's funny whenever the leftist media outlets talk about Trump's plans for immigration and the border. And they're like, he wants to deport a lot of people. He wants to really cut down on the border. He really wants to do all this stuff. He wants to put people in camps until he can get them deported.
And the Republicans are like, sounds good.
And Republicans are like, that's amazing. Why aren't we doing that now? Or like the thing today I saw, he wants to put back into effect the family separation policy. Well, that was really a deterrent for people to not come. And Biden is doing family separation too. Only families are separating themselves way before they get here, and then their kids get sold to human traffickers.
But when the media reports like Donald Trump will imprison political opponents and engage in mass deportation, the headline is actually Donald Trump to enforce law. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. NPR was arguing that abortion is going to be the big issue. They're like, this is everything everyone's going to talk about. They really want
it to be because it was in the midterms. They say that had a big impact on the midterms.
And it's the only thing that they can say to make people hysterical, right?
See, Republicans don't get it. They play everything straight shot. No. You got to understand. The play is for Republicans to all come out, all sit on they should have a big event where they get a bunch of candidates, pro-life candidates, sitting at a table, and they all just kind of look at each other and go, so liberals want to abort their children? We're for that. We are all for that. We agree. Yes, liberals should be allowed to abort all of their children.
Registered Democrats, though.
Yeah, not even going to say it. Just and then they're going to be like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah, that's still not good.
Why are you saying? No. The Republicans need to be like, we're in favor of liberals getting abortions. Thank you, and have a nice day.
But they can't be. I mean, true pro-lifers don't want anybody to abort their children.
Well, I do think it's a huge problem for conservatives, for the Republican Party, that you have a staunch, unmovable faction. I understand the arguments, and I don't disagree. I think it's strong to have morals. I'm saying there is a risk there because they're going to lose a lot of suburban women. That's just
the abortion thing.
I was playing golf on Saturday with a guy, and we just got paired up with him. I didn't know him personally beforehand, and first hole he asked me what I do. I tell him I'm a writer, a podcaster, and all that. And he says, "Oh, I'm a software engineer, and I do a lot of political stuff, and I'm very progressive." And I was like, "Oh, this is going to be an interesting round of golf." We never got into specific people except AOC and Matt Gaetz and the bill that they kind of co-sponsored together over term limits. And our general consensus by the end of the match was we need to get rid of the kitchen table topics, the abortion, the gun rights, and all that stuff is not going anywhere anytime soon. The abortion's down at the states where it needs to be. Gun rights aren't going any. What's that?
Disagree on the abortion thing.
You don't think abortion should be at the states?
No, but continue.
Okay. Well, anyways, the bottom line is we both agreed that the next administration, whether it's the president, the next Congress, everybody got to get our shit together, man. We got to stop passing these CRs. We got to stop passing the omnibus. We got to get term limits in there. Absolutely have to have term limits.
The fact that Dianne Feinstein died in office is crazy.
The fact that TMZ is interviewing her and how does it feel to be back? And she's, What do you mean I feel to be back? I've been here the whole time. Like, no, you've been gone for... Fetterman. I mean, Fetterman's asking a question of a banker, and it's so bad that the banker at the end is like, I don't know. You can't make sense of what he's saying. So
I think Fetterman's actually recovered quite a great deal, though, at this point.
I haven't seen him lately.
Yeah, his latest videos are coherent.
Oh,
yeah,
so,
and he's pretty funny. I got to be honest.
So what's on the abortion?
Human rights are a question for the federal government. Whether the Constitution applies to an individual is a question for the federal government to answer. Do the unborn have guaranteed rights to life? That is not something the states can decide.
I mean, I personally think they do, but is it explicitly in the Constitution?
So, like the 14th Amendment, for instance, that the Constitution applies to the people. We went over this with Ian. I'm not going to pull it up again. Okay. But do the unborn have God-given rights?
Yeah.
So why then would you say that if you are born, the federal government guarantees your rights, but if you're unborn, the federal government does not guarantee your rights?
Because the left doesn't see that the same way.
I'm not talking about the left.
They have a differing opinion. So I'm with you.
You're arguing it should not be a federal question. I think if the federal government is saying the Constitution applies to all of its subjects, then I would say, oh, okay, then the unborn are humans with human rights, the same as any born person. Why then would it be a question for the state to be allowed to say, nah, they're determining this person's not a human? You know what I mean?
Because they're referring to, the conversations about abortion aren't about the unborn child. They're always about the woman who's carrying the child.
Right.
My point is the federal government needs to answer the question of whether or not the unborn have God-given and guaranteed rights.
I think that makes sense.
Is the answer yes or no? And when Roe v. Wade was first overturned, I said, it probably makes sense. The states can determine it. I don't know. And then after having several arguments about it, I was like, no, nah. We're going back to this period where some states determined that some people were or were not worthy of full God-given protected rights.
Peru recently passed a bill that called the Law That Recognizes Rights of the Conceived, making sure that the unborn have constitutional rights. Right.
Like, can a state right now say that we've determined white men are not human?
No.
But a white baby is not human. That's what they can say now. So why give them the power to determine the life of the child's value or their rights, but not for someone who's born? If the argument is pro-life, then pro-lifers should be saying the Constitution guarantees the rights of the unborn the same as the born.
But wouldn't the Constitution then have to? Because look, and I'm with you on this. I'm with you as a conservative. I'm with you, but the left, they're making the argument that it's not a person. It doesn't have any rights until it's actually born, which I disagree with strongly. But because of that, that would then be, I mean, unless you get a ruling from the Supreme Court saying that, yes, as soon from the moment of conception, or, and this was what Roe v. Wade was originally supposed to be, right, from 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, it's a person from that point on, until we have something like that on the record, on the books and the federal, either statute or in the Constitution, right, amendment.
So I think the ruling from the Supreme Court should have been as such. 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Period. Next clause. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Semicolon. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of laws. Is an unborn baby a person as per the Constitution? That question needs to be answered. Because if it does, that means no state can deprive a baby, an unborn child, of life lest there is a due process hearing. That's a question that the federal government needs to answer. I do not believe it should be up to states to decide who is a person and who isn't. I also think it's kind of shocking that the federal government could decide a certain group of people are not persons as well. But it does need to be adjudicated and ruled upon. The question as per the 14th Amendment, are the unborn persons? Yes or no? What would you say?
Based on the 14th Amendment.
No, just a generic question.
Are they a person? Yes.
Okay, there you go. Then they can't. Then abortions are illegal without a due process hearing to determine the rights and the justification for abortion. End of story. No exceptions. None whatsoever. I am not pro-life, right? Because I think there's a lot of. I think the issue, however, would simply be that in the instance of any abortion, there would have to be a hearing to terminate the life. And the hearing may be, the woman says, I do not consent to give my body. There's no contractual agreement. And the court may then say, the person in your body has no right, no guarantees to your blood. We agree, bang the gavel, whatever you want to do. Abortion is permitted. However it's done. The point is, are the unborn persons? If they are, the federal government needs to say the unborn are persons. And if they are, then abortions cannot happen without due process. And that would mean the woman who wants to get an abortion would have to go to court and get approval from a judge for an abortion.
Be like she's trying to get married at the age of 15. Sorry, it's a terrible joke. Lily's laughing though.
And the interesting thing here is the serious nature of what this means. It means that you can't deprive a person of life without due process. That would mean the abortions would need to have very strong legal reasons. I think there's a libertarian contractual argument of the state can't enforce someone provide their body to another person. However, the judge could simply say, you've entered into an agreement with the life within you by having consensual sex. The argument could then be, it was rape, in which case, after due process, rape was determined. Unfortunately for the person, this person in the womb has no guarantee to the blood of the person for which they currently reside. Bang the gavel, abortion permitted. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.